Absolute Emperor, Napoleonic Wargame battles. We're playing a multiple core battle here in a space 30 inches by 30 inches. It is the morning time, and I forgot in the last video to tell you, it's very foggy today. Ranges are limited to 2 inches of gunfire and 1 inch. Normally, you've got a 2-inch zone of control around the front of your boys. It's only 1 inch in the first 2 turns of this 12-turn game that sees the Napoleon's adopted stepson, General Eugene, with about 40,000 troops, facing the Austrian Field Marshal Bellegarde, who also has about 40,000 troops. Because they weren't planning on having a battle today, both teams have troops scattered on either side of the Mincio River, which is right here, and can only be crossed at this built-up area, and this bridge. I put down, for those of you that are familiar with Absolute Emperor, Elan is the order of the day. 4 Elan there, 3 Elan there, and these dice will help you keep track of where the corps commanders are. 3 there and 2 there. So this is Eugene. Well, actually, this should be Eugene, the major commander, but whatever, it's fine. We're going to call him Eugene, and we're going to call him Bellegarde. Who is that one? That's Grenier. Okay, so Grenier has an Elan of 2, so it's 5 to 7, which means the French are obligated to move first. At the end of the first turn of movement, I'm going to go ahead and do all my moving off camera because it takes a few minutes and it's just me dropping a ruler down and kind of going ha, hem, haw, trying to see what's the most optimal way of doing things. The French have an easier go of things down south. They've brought their cannon up and they've unlimbered it right here, and they aimed it this way. So there's a 3-inch move. They're now targeting the Austrians. Both of their seasoned infantry are swinging to the left around this trees, and these trees are where the commander is set up. As you can see, he is, we got to pull this guy down. You always got to remember, the tree's kind of getting in the way. Keep him within 8 inches, and then this one has to be within 8 inches as well. So we're going to bring him back. This is a big part of how this game operates. I would love, you know what I'm going to have to do is shift this guy down just a little bit more to keep him. This is our conscript infantry. They have to be within 4 inches of the commander. They're barely there now. This commander is within 8 inches. Oh, we got a little bit more space. So everybody is within 4 inches, just a little bit within 4 inches of this guy. Main commander. And again, we stretched it out as far as we can to cover as much area as possible. The Austrians have the same situation going where this guy, and remember he can move 4 inches per turn, so we'll go ahead and bring him up. He's got to be, oh boy, he's going to have to come over this way a little more to stay within 8 inches of this corps commander. But then we got to check this guy. Well, there's 8 inches. All right, he's up here. He does not have, he has 3 as his Elan. So again, 8 inches, 8 inches, and then this cannon down here, this cannon would love to move up further along the hillside. Unfortunately, that would put him further than 4 inches away from this commander. The Austrians have a lot more force down here, but they're having a hard time bringing it into action, bringing it to bear. He's too far from the edge of the woods, to the hill, to be able to start shooting effectively at these guys. He is still, so the cannons are facing that way, he's still limbered. He can't shoot this turn. And that's really where we're at. We need to get into the shooting phase. The French have 1 cannon here. Oh, before we get into the shooting phase, let's take a look at the other flank of this battle. Looks a little bit something like this. And once again, the Austrians are having they have a little easier time in this open space. One of their infantry has seized the village. They've got a cannon here with an open line of fire at the conscripts. And then they have another line of infantry here. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys shift up and try to take that village. There's a lot more guys up here, but even if they take that village, they're going to have to run down where the Austrians have the weight of numbers down there. That's it for movement. Let's go ahead and do some shooting now. And we might as well just do things up here since we already have the camera set up here. There's really only a little bit of shooting to do, and that's just going to come from the cannons. So remember, the French now, they're shooting, if you do counter battery fire, you got to hit on a 6, and you got to hit twice. That cannon did move close enough. They are within 4 inches. Well, as long as they're within 5 inches, and they're 5 inches. They're right on it. So as long as they're shooting at this built-up area, and they shoot straight ahead, remember. Yeah, they only roll 1d6, and that's going to be a miss for that artillery. But then this artillery, they get to fire twice. They're beyond 4 inches, so they're going to be hitting on 5, but they can only do 1 damage. They picked up one of them, so this conscript has already taken its first damage. There's no other shooting to go on up here. Everybody else is beyond 2 inches. So we'll bring our camera back down to the southern flank, and we'll look at this cannon's limbered up. This cannon now does have a shot, as long as the guys are shooting at are, yeah, look at that. They are within 12 inches, so they do have a shot. They're going to roll 2d6. Anytime a cannon is shooting an Austrian infantry, they're hit on a 4 or up. At 12 inches away, it's going to be 2 dice to hit these guys, and they get 1 hit, but because the French have subpar equipment, they have to hit a second time, or it's no dice. So they don't do any damage down there, and we're done with the shooting phase. Then we go on to the command phase for turn number 2, and I guess we should probably go ahead and put our turn marker right out there on top of the hill. It is now second turn. I'm going to put it down here too if it's a little easier for you to read, but it's going to get crowded down there. The French have moved first, and they've shifted formation from column march to column attack, which brings them just to the base of this hill. In response, the Austrians have seized the village. They're going to have to be pried out of there with a crowbar. This cannon has limbered up, and it's ready to shoot. I'm going to rule, since these guys are so close to the foot of the hill, that the cannon won't be able to fire until they get up on top of the hill. Although, yeah, it's out of line. It can only shoot, remember, straight ahead. Although it will be able to shoot at either one of these guys. The cannon down here stayed limbered up, or unlimbered, I should say. And for their part, the Austrians have now completed consolidating on this side of the river. Both the cavalry and the infantry are still in column march, so they're not ready to shoot. They're not going to be too effective. But again, nobody is within shooting distance down here. Not only that, nobody is within charge distance. Let's go take a look at that northern flank, where the French have begun their encirclement. The conscripts are going to buy some time by tying up this line infantry for the Austrians, and the 2 attack columns are steadily approaching the village. We've got some horses outside ready to kind of hit it up on a third flank, and then again, it takes a long time to move this stuff because you got to be real careful about those corps commanders. I know we're all spread out, but it's really limiting some of the movement. That's about as far as these guys can go on this turn. They're right at 4 inches. So that said, they did stop at 2, and after the shooting phase, we're going to have some charging up here. We do have shooting going on up here. I'm going to start with the Austrians, who are in line up here. The question is, so here's what's fun. This side of the town doesn't have anybody in range. This side does. So the town is going to roll 2d6 against this formation here. They are seasoned, so they're going to get 1 hit. And then these guys are going to fire 4 dice here. And they're going to get a total of 2 hits. So 1 hit, 2 hits. And that does pin these guys in place. They are halted. We'll grab another die to mark the casualty here. 1 hit there. They are not halted. Then we're going to be able to fire attack column. Means they're only each going to roll 2d6. But we've got 2d6 and 2d6 here shooting at the built-up area. Infantry shooting, what happens if you're shooting into a built-up area? You have a minus 2d6. So actually they can't, because it's 2d6 minus 2d6, 2d6 minus 2d6. So they can't have any effect even if they wanted to. However, these guys do get to roll 2d6 as they shoot at that infantry over there. With a single 5, they are going to land 1 hit, but they are now vulnerable to a charge from those guys. We've done all of the shooting over here, except the cannon,
who is going to be rolling 2 dice, looking for a 6. He doesn't get anything. And then this cannon is going to shoot here, and he is looking for... are they within 4 inches? That's the first question. They are not. They are just outside. So it's going to be 2d6 hitting on 5s. Not a single hit there. I think we're done with all of our shooting. But we do have some charging to do. And although this cavalry is within 4 inches of the town, the charging is going to look something like this. These guys are 2 inches. They're going to charge up to meet this column. And then these guys, because they're behind this line, are going to be able to charge into combat here, into attack column. And I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to kind of cheat it over just a little bit to squeeze them in like that. And then we've got 2 more guys right here. And unfortunately for the French, these guys need to charge this side. They're going to have to move over here next turn, which might be a little bit tricky because he's going to have to move up such that they actually have room. I mean, they're only 1.5 inches away right now, but the furthest they're going to be able to get away from that guy is 4 inches. They got to be behind this line in order to charge this flank. So with all of that charging out of the way, now we can do some melee combat. The infantry are going to be rolling 2d6 in attack column. Let's start with a messy one. These seasoned boys are attacking because they charged. They get a bonus of d6. So it's going to be 4d6, 5d6 for the charge against that French unit. They get a total of 2 hits. That takes them up to 5, and now those are weakened conscripts, which I think you can't be weakened any further. I think 5 is the worst they can do. But the conscripts do get to counterattack. They are in attack formation, or what do you call it? Attack columns, so they roll 2 dice, looking for 5s. They don't get any hits. And then we have an odd situation where we've got basically what amounts to 2 different combats. It's going to be 2d6 attacking each of these guys. So we'll roll those first. It's going to be a 2d6 attack from the town for 1 hit, and a 2d6 attack from the town for no hits. So they take 1 hit. And then the town is going to be under attack. And columns, is there any bonus for attacking when you charge into a charge? Is plus 1d6, except you have a total of 2d6 when you're attacking. So it doesn't matter that they charge. They're rolling 2d6 to try and dislodge those guys, and they fail. These guys are rolling 2d6, and they get a total of 1 hit on the town. It's a start. That is it for the combat for this round. We are now on to turn number 3. We have to do some movement. We're going to start up here. Well, no, that's not true. First thing we got to do is take away this because we go on to command. Everybody improves 1 step. Then we go to movement, and the only movement that we've got is to... We're going to spin this cannon so we can hopefully fire at that guy. Our commander here is going to... Let me use the short ruler. And I'm going to put my thumb on the 4-inch mark so we can get our... Oop, that's not him. So we can get our commander. He can move anywhere up to here. He's going to pull all the way up to there, even with the town. And that way, these guys can finally move in a straight line that way. They're going to get up to here. And they're actually going... Wait. They're going to form line, which means they can still move 4 inches. But they're going to stop right here so that they can come in and hammer that third flank. We'll get a total of 66 against this village. If we could just get enough hits, we may be able to seize it right now. The French may have enough oomph left over to run down to the south before this game is over. Speaking of the south, before we can move on, we need to do a little bit of movement down here. As you can see, the French have refused this flank. I'm going to move him up just a little bit more. They have actually pivoted around, recognizing that they're safe from the artillery for now. They want to deal with this threat first. So they've moved up to here, and that puts the pressure on the Austrians. They're going to go ahead and limber this cannon back up, and in the open, that cannon can move
3 inches. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. So he's going to slide on over. He's still within 4 inches, just barely. But then what do we do with these cavalry? Well, the first thing we got to do is they can't get any closer because they're already 2 inches away. So we're going to tighten them up, kind of aim that way, and we're going to form squadron. That's going to allow this Austrian unit to, as long as they're doing that, we should limber this guy up and move him over here. Yeah, boy. So that, like that, and maybe even pull him back just a little bit further. Nah, it doesn't matter because those horses are so fast. The idea here is, I wonder if we want to put him on the bridge. Let's do that. Let's put him right on the bridge for the movement this turn. That way they can protect themselves a little bit by forcing anybody that comes at them to come at them in column. I don't know what the deal is with them being inside a built-up area. And I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to let them move into there. Again, these guys are limbered. They're limbered. So now they don't have any other movement left they can do. This Austrian unit is too far away. The one in the built-up area can't do anything. And I guess I got to back these guys off a little bit more. The Austrians would love to be in line formation, but there just isn't space for it. That means these Austrians are only going to be able to roll 2d6. Now, these guys are not going to shoot. They're going to go ahead and form square to keep these guys honest. And it's going to devolve into a shooting match between these two outfits. We'll start with the Austrians, who are going to roll 2 dice. And they're going to get 2 hits here, which pins them, which is too bad. I think they would have liked to have charged. 2 hits. And then the French are going to shoot back, and they are also seasoned here, and they're also going to get 2 hits, which is going to pin this unit. So no hand-to-hand. They're just going to be popping at each other. Now let's look at the shooting over on this side. Turns out these guys, they don't need to re-roll the extra hit when they are in canister range. So within 4 inches, they roll the 2 dice and they can still do 2 hits on 4 up when they're shooting at the bad guys. A little bit of an advantage to the Austrians there, for those of you that think that I'm all about the French bros. We've done all our moving. Okay, there's no shooting over here. How about that? Well, yeah, you can't shoot into. So we're going to spin him. You know what occurs to me? We need to check our boss men. He can slide up just a little bit there on camera to put him in range. And then this guy needs to be right about here so that he can stay within 4 inches of that unit there. But then what we'll do is we'll limber these guys up and they can move 1, 2. We're going to give them just that little bit of extra movement. They are unlimbered and they can't shoot, but they are now over here kind of in the way looking at these cavalry. And that's going to be, we're kind of, we'll stand them off just a little bit more. How about right there? I think that looks good. Because what's going to happen now is we got to do our charge phase. And there's only 2 charges that are available. The French are going to swing around and charge into here. Because they are in combat now, like that, the cannon can't shoot at them next turn. That may be a problem. But we can do some hand-to-hand combat. And it's anybody's guess what's going to happen here. I have some ideas, but we got to play it to see it. This time around, these Austrians are only going to roll 4 dice to hit, and those 4 dice are going to wipe these guys from the map. However, they do get to roll their 2 dice to attack those Austrians back. And with a 2 and a 2, they're no good. They have to make a morale check to see if they save their colors. And with a 6, they do. Very important. So they slowed down. I guess they achieved their mission. They slowed down that Austrian unit. But next turn, I think they're going to have to withdraw to deal with them. So this is the one turn for this assault to really do what the assault needs to do. And I'm going to roll first for the French wounds. 2 dice, 2 dice, 2 dice. So the guys in the town are actually going to get to roll a total of 6 attacks. So it's 1 on the cavalry, 1 over here, hitting on 4s, and 2 over here.
So 2 here, 1 on the cavalry. And was it 1 here too? No, I think it was a 1 and a 2. All right, well, if it was 1, you're getting away with 1. Now we're going to roll a total of 6d6 against the town between all of those attackers, and they are all seasoned, so they are all going to hit on 4s. We get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. That brings this up to 5, which is not enough to force withdrawal. You need 5 hits to force that withdrawal, but they're getting closer. Whoops, that's not right. When you take 3 hits in melee, you recoil. The only direction for these guys to recoil in is gonna be away from the enemy. They're gonna recoil back to here. And a recoil means back off 1 inch. I'm gonna back them off an inch from the built-up area. And then they are disordered. So they have been pushed out. The question becomes, who did they recoil from? The Austrians would love to let these guys in because it would keep them from getting pounded. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. First of all, we know it's not these guys because, well, these guys would follow up, but if they fail to best the guy, the whole thing gets a little complicated. I'm going to go ahead and pull these guys back 4 inches. I'm going to measure it from the center, and they're going to go to here. I think that's a reasonable result. Hey, we distracted them. We did what we needed to do. They're still in line formation. They've withdrawn to here. Then the question is going to be, which of these 2 guys is going to be entering that town to hold it? And if the French get to decide, it's going to be these guys. The way I'm going to determine this is essentially I'm going to make an activation check to see if these guys go. See if they're smart enough. So on a 5 they are. So I'm sorry, you guys are on a 5 now. And these guys pour in, and now they control the town. And that's how we're going to end turn number 3. Yeah. Have I missed anything here? The guys in the town now have 2 damage. And that's going to be the end of that turn. Now, they are disrupted. So the turn ends. And then in the command phase, all of these pins go bye-bye, which is only really down here in the south. And these guys now become halted. And the question is, do we want to spend a point to remove that halted? And I think we do. We're going to lower his elan down to 2 because we need those guys active. We've got to try to retake that village, or at least pin these guys up here for as long as possible, and do as much damage as we can. The movement phase is still going to start with the French. We're going to pull him around because we want these guys to move up to here. That way they're supporting the village and they keep these guys distracted. I guess these guys technically, they need to withdraw. Well, they withdrew 1 inch, but they're still within the attack zone of these guys. So I'm not quite sure what that means. The cavalry are going to move 4 inches. Well, not quite 4. They're going to move up to here and threaten that artillery over there. The artillery is going to go ahead and rotate around. We'll bring this guy over here so they can at least get a couple of shots off at those guys. And that's all the movement we've got over here. This artillery is going to, remember they were limbered, so they're going to pull back to here. They want to stay within 4 inches of these guys. So right about there. And then they're going to unlimber, so they get a shot over there. Let's go look at the southern flank and see how things have developed down here. Everybody has got their pin markers removed. Nobody is halted. They're still in, what do you call it? They're still in the, now here's where we're going to get super tricky. We're going to, they're still in square.
we're going to bring this cannon over here just a couple of inches, and I think that means we need to bring him up because we want that cannon protected by the river. They're going to start shooting across the river. And they only moved, 2 inches. They can move 3, so they're going to move to there. Yep, and they're going to stay just like that. What are you going to do? Now you can't sit there. You're being threatened by artillery, and the only way to get to them is to get through these guys. You can't get any closer to this bridge because of their little 2-inch zone of control. Both of these guys are stopped and halted, so we're done. Everything is exactly... Oh, no, there's one more little piece of movement. The French are done. This guy is going to go ahead and move up to the top, and then he's going to unlimber here. And now they have the same situation where, what do you do? Well, hopefully you're going to be able to charge, but this one's going to be tricky. So let's do some shooting. We know this cannon is going to be firing 2 dice down here, and they hit on 5s. It's going to be 1 hit. And then these guys are going to be firing 2 dice. They get 1 hit to take them up to 4, and that is going to put a pin on them, so they can't charge. Oh, man, they're in trouble. Oh, come to think of it, they do need to stay back the 2 inches. So we'll put them an inch from the edge, and then we'll call it even. That's fine. And then we've got, these guys do, however, get to take some shots over here. They're going to roll 2 dice, hitting on 4s, and not have any effect. So rough times down there. Anybody else? Oh, this cannon down here now is going to fire twice, and they don't have to hit twice. They just on a... you know what they could do? They could actually fire over here. Are they within 4 inches? No. All right, let me check my modifiers on that. Feels like artillery should be more effective against cavalry. And that's going to be a big deal later on as well. Artillery shooting canister against an attack column, flanker rear, rerolls 1 miss. Wait a minute. So if they're shooting in an attack column, but I think they count both dice. I don't see anything about shooting at cavalry. Attack column, march order, flanker rear. They're definitely not in the flank of these guys, but I think they're going to go ahead and shoot. Well, but okay, so it's, do we roll 2 dice here? Yeah, let's roll 2 dice there. I think that's probably the best way to do it. So they're going to get 1 hit on that cavalry. And everything stays static down there. Now we're going to swing back up here to take a look at our shooting in the north. Oh boy, I don't think I finished my movement in the north because these guys definitely wanted to wheel around this way, like so. So they can get some shots out. I mean, it doesn't matter because they still had these guys in their front. So they're going to be able to roll 4 dice against here. These guys are going to roll 2 dice against the town. They're hitting on 5s now, so that's a total miss. These guys are shooting here, and it's 4 dice. Hitting on 4s, they do an additional damage there, and that is it. Nope, these guys, this cannon here is rolling 2 dice against the cavalry, and without a single 5, they didn't do any hits. That's going to cost them. So we're going to roll 2d6 against this attack. The town is going to roll 2d6 here, and 2d6 here. So 2d6 here, and they get 2 hits to take them to 7, and then, sorry about the bump there. Let me drop another die down. And they are pinned, so they're not even going to be able to charge. It looks like the French are going to be able to score the victory in the north, at least. Then we got 2d6 against these guys, and it's going to be 2 hits there, which is also going to pin them. We're going to have another 2 dice from these guys, which is going to do a 3rd hit. So they're now up to 3, and they are pinned. And then we've got the cannon. Did I already roll for this artillery? Are they within 4 inches? I tried to move them so they would be. Yeah, so they're going to roll 2 dice, counting any 5s, and there's your 4th hit right there, bringing them up to 5. And that is it for the shooting, but we do have some charges. These guys are an attack column. They can charge up and make contact. Do we want to, though? I don't know if we want to be honest with you. I know these guys do. Heck yeah, 4 inches. They're going to charge right up into that. Right up.
they're going to conform something like that, that general can just kind of slide out of the way a little bit. They have 1 damage, and then that's going to be a total of 6d6 against that artillery. And with 1 single hit, the artillery is gone, and that artillery has to roll a 5 up. They do not, so the elan here goes down to 1. And then that is it for the attacking. Yeah, we like having lots of shots over here. They're halted, might as well just leave them there. And then we're done with shooting. We're on to turn number 5. And the first thing we need to look at over here is we've got some support coming for the north. On turn number 5, this little detachment is tasked with coming on the board, and they're going to come in on the hill. And since they are limbered up already, they're going to be able to move 6 inches on to the board. So this cannon is going to stay limbered for now, and these guys are going to be in march order, and they are also going to be able to come 6 inches onto the board to about right there. It's going to take them, it might take them a turn or two to get there, but I don't know. I hope they get there in time. Fresh troops. Because these guys want to wheel around like this and threaten the flank of that Austrian unit. They're in line. It's just within, here's 4 inches, just within range of this guy who is just within 8 inches. But that's really as far as they can get. Much as they might like to race over here, they don't dare risk getting out of their command radius. So that's how the chain of command works in this game and presents one of the challenges. Well, I guess we'll just have to finish the mop-up detail over here. On the command phase, I always forget this. I wonder why. All of these pin markers go bye-bye. And does anybody want to move over here? Yeah, these guys do. Well, do they? Yeah, what if they swing around? Well, they can't, because they can't get within 2 inches of this guy. If anything, they should peel off a couple more inches that way. But we're going to leave it as is on that side. Now we're going to take a look down here at the southern phone booth, where I don't think we have any other movement that needs to be done anyway. We could bring this cavalry around this way, but we'd have to be very careful about our command radius there. Speaking of, I wonder what our command radius is up north. He's can't move, so we have, man, that's about it. That's where he's stuck. But if we move in column, then these horses could go 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's do that. They can come around to here and threaten that artillery from the flank. Something like this. Because they got to get around to these guys. Unfortunately, that's going to expose them to some cannon fire, but at least they're out of range. And we could move these guys up now. The first question is, do these guys, honestly, every turn they could be going, yeah, I'm in an attack column. But the French move first. So they have to hold tight. And then once they're gone, well, they're in attack column, but, they were facing the horses, so that's all they can do. So no movement down there. We are already done with movement, so we can move on to the shooting phase. And as usual, but if they move out first, then we can go ahead. You know what we can do? We can set these guys up in line now. Yeah, boy. Okay, and the reason that's important is because when we do our shooting, the bad news is these guys are going to be able to shoot them. So they're going to take 4d6, but they're going to be dishing 4d6 out. And I think we want to do that. So first the Austrians are going to dish it out. And they're going to dish out a total of 2 hits to this guy. And he's going to be pinned in place. So he's now up to 6. He's now up to 6. And he's pinned. And then it's going to be 2d6 and 2d6 versus that guy hitting on 4s. It's only 1 hit, so he is not pinned, which is great, because when we do our charges, we can charge here and we can countercharge. It's going to be really great. Before we can get to those charges, we do need to do some shooting up here in the north. we're going to have 2 shots fired against the town on the part of the Austrians. And they're going to hit twice, sending the town up to 4. And then we're going to have 2 shots against those Austrians. And we're going to, oh, that was a 2. And we're going to get 1 hit with our seasoned boys, and that wipes them from the map. They are going to have to roll a 5 up. They do not, so these guys all have to retreat now. Well, in the next turn, their orders immediately, because their leader is out of Elan, their orders immediately change to retreat. But we still have to do this shooting, which is hitting on 2s, or on 4s, so it's 2 more shots here, taking them to 7. And then we have 2 shots down here, hitting on 5s, so 2 hits is gonna pin them in place. But there's not gonna be a whole lot of guys left to retreat, because these cannons are gonna be shooting, and we just need 1 hit. And then again, these guys, now their core is already reduced to 0 Elan, so I'm not gonna roll for them again. These guys are already on retreat orders, and man, things have really fallen apart up here. So if they can secure that, so we will do the charge order, which is gonna put, wait, these guys were wiped out too, weren't they? Yeah, so the Austrians have been driven from the field in the north, and that raises an interesting question for these guys over here. Do they automatically retreat, or should they come down here? Man, I don't know. Now that we've actually played through this, I'm starting to wonder if this is balanced in favor of the French, or if I just had good rolls. I think I'm going to have to watch the video. But things aren't going well for the French down here. We're going to have to do some charges, and the only 2 guys that can charge are here and here, and so now we have to roll for charge and countercharge. So let's roll for the Austrians first. They have to get a 4 up, and they do not, and we'll roll for these guys. They need a 4 up, and they get it. So oddly enough, these guys are, you know, did we do shooting down here? I don't think we did. Oh yeah, we did. We faux show did. Okay. So they're going to get the charge bonus. So altogether, this melee down here is going to be 3 dice for the French versus 4 for the Austrians. The French are hitting on 4s. They get nothing. And the Austrians are going to be hitting on... Let me roll over here so it's out of the way. Hitting on 4s. They get a pair of them, which is going to do 2 damage to those guys. And that's all we have for anything. Becomes turn 6. We're going to pull off all of our pinned markers. And we're going to start with the French movement, which means we'll start with these reinforcements over here. Since they're coming on, they're going to move 6 inches in march column since they're on the road. And we're going to bring the fresh infantry up first, followed by the conscript. So seasoned versus conscript. And then we'll slide back over to where we were, and we're going to... We can't really do much of anything here. If we're not pinned, we can charge in and we can add our weight of numbers to this combat, but with only 6, I have my doubts about whether they're going to make it. The other thing we can do is kind of turn and shoot at that cannon, but I think we're just done right there. The cannon here, since it doesn't have a shot, is going to spin like this. And then where do we want to put our leaders? Oh, this leader is going to move 4 inches back to here, which will open things up for this leader a little bit. He'll be able to kind of slide a little closer. Remember how we were struggling because he couldn't get too far away from this guy. Now because he's here, that gives this cavalry, no more French movement? Okay, this cavalry is going to form squadron, or do they form line? If they're in line or squadron, they move 4 inches either way.
So they're going to be able to move up to here in line like this. I think we have to go squadron. I just think if we, otherwise it's too sharp. These hills are in the way. In order to get to this cannon, we're gonna have to form squadron. We're gonna have to expose these cavalry will expose themselves to 1 round of gunfire. But the other thing is they need to stay within 4 inches of this guy, and this guy needs to stay within 4 inches of that cannon. So putting this down, he's gonna move. Get out of the way, you, to there, and then oh man. Oh, you know what I forgot? If you're within 4 inches of the corps command, the overall commander, you're considered in command. So he can come over. Ah, that's right. That's right. I'll tell you what we're going to have to do with this guy is we'll move these guys. Again, they can move. Oh, it's only 4 inches. Did I move them? We're going to cheat him back just a little bit like that. And then he's going to stay within 6 inches there, and then those guys are within 6 inches. So basically, the overall commander is assumed command of these 3 units as a detachment. But we're going to bring the cannon over to the inside. He's going to move the 4 inches from here to here. Yeah, I think that's probably the way we got to do it. I know we're not really doing a strict French move and then the Austrians move, but that's because we've got multiple... Oh, in fact, you know, because these cavalry are here, that does change how we move these guys. We should expect the cavalry to move first. They are going to about face, and they're going to move their 4 inches down to... So these guys, yeah. These guys are going to have to move more like that to stay safe, because they don't want anything to do with these cavalry. So the cavalry... Oh, but the cavalry now, remember, they're not going to be able to move any closer. They got to stay, that's about as close as they can get because of where their commander is. Oh, this commander's gone. So these Austrians over here do have a little bit more room to play with just because these guys are held tight by this commander. Now that commander can move, but in order for him to do so, this cannon has to limber up. And technically these guys are all on defend orders unless he wants to burn an elan, which I guess you do that, right? Burn the elan, and you order them to do what? And this is where the game kind of bogs down a little bit and gets a little bit confusing. I kind of wish that you had a couple of options to just issue orders. Right now, they're expected to defend this, which means all of the French, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to leave it right here. You have to defend. We'll bring this guy 4 inches out so we can come up to this area, at least. But then all of these guys, right, we're going to go 1, 2, 3. There's no other threat here. We'll unlimber and we'll move 1, 2, 3 to something like that, as long as he's within 4 inches of that commander, which again, he's not, so he's going to have to come over this way. And then if this commander moves over, I guess these horses can move up a little bit more, which, if we go back in time, shoves these guys over south. Remember, they were coming straight over. They're going to come south and try to, like, head off. I think you got to try to head off those guys, because you're doing well. I think you can fight to a draw if you maintain possession of this village down here. That's got to be the Austrian strategy at this point. You have some shooting. We've got a cannon that's going to be shooting twice at this guy, and on a pair of 5s, he missed both times. How about that? Then we've got a couple of shots, blam, there, hitting on 5s, so all misses. And then we have an artillery who is going to be shooting here. Close range, it's going to be hitting on 5s. So we get one more hit against this cavalry, and then it's time for chargey. And here's where we said, yeah, you got to go squadron to bring these guys in. But at least they're going to be able to clear him fairly easily. In fact, let's just do that, because it's 6 dice. All they got to do is get one result of a 5 or a 6. And then, oh, here's a fun thing. He has to roll a 5 or a 6. Or else this elan goes down by 2. Oh, now that's interesting. Okay. All right. The plot thickens. But that's not the only charge we've got. We've got a charge down here. They're going to come in, and they are in attack column, so they're going to kind of come in 2 by 2 and pour in, and we've got a total of, boy, what was he at? I hope he was at 2. I think he was only at 2. So it's going to be a total of 4 against, let's attack this guy. The Austrians against the French get no hits. And, you know, let's go ahead and spend an elan, because we really need to get a better roll than that. Rolling 4 dice, looking for 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. That's what the Austrians needed. This unit is now wiped from the field on a 5 or a 6. This elan goes down to 1. On a 1 through 4, it goes down to 1. On a 5 or 6 to protect it. So they're gone, but they do get their 2d6 attack, plus they charged. So it's going to be 3d6 here, 2d6 here. It's going to be a total of 5 dice against this guy here. And, no, I got to roll them separately. It's going to be 3 dice hitting on 5s, 2 hits. And then it's going to be 2 dice hitting on 4s. And that's 2 more hits. So a total of 4 hits is going to have a result, and not a good one for the Austrians. If you are shooting and you cause 4 hits, they become disordered. Oh no, wait, this is combat. So 3, they recoil and become disordered. All right. So 7 hits, and then these guys pull back 1 inch. We're gonna move the commander over here, I guess. Just kind of shove them out of the way. They are bloodied, badly bloodied. When you recoil, I think, can the French follow up on a recoil? There's a lot of if-thens in this game. We got to check it. The attacking unit, if not in combat, may follow up and remain in combat. Heck yeah, we want to follow up. We are crushing it. So they follow up like that. And, oh, this unit is now Cabon. Bye-bye. And still 1 unit against all these Austrians. These guys are pinned in place because they're too busy dealing with the cannons, hooking them up, dispatching riders to steal those cannons and get them back to the home front. And then we move on to turn number 7. I warned you this was going to be a longer than usual game. Our elan score is 3 to the French versus 3 to the Austrians. So I'm going to roll off. The Austrians get a 5, the French get a 5, the Austrians get a 5, the French get a 5, the Austrians get a 6, finally, and the French get a 1, so the Austrians have the initiative. French have to move first, and this time we're going to be a little more responsible about it. The commander has to stay within 5 inches of town because he's got to keep these guys in command, so he's going to go right there. This limbered up cannon is going to be able to move, well, he's going to move 3 inches, but these guys are in the way. They're going to move 3 inches to here. And then the cannon is going to move 3 inches along to here, provided he is still within 4 inches, which he is. Now these cavalry can move up to, say, here. Well, as long as they're within 4 inches of their commander, they can move to about there, still in line, and they are threatening. And remember, oh, you can't even see that, can you? There we go. See those cavalry? They're threatening these guys over here. Are there any other French that need to move? I got like 1 commander that I guess can move. And then, oh yeah, of course, we got these guys over here. They are going to move through this built-up area. They can move 6 inches, and they're going to deploy it. Well, they can't move within 2 inches of this guy. What happens if you're racing for a built-up area? Tell you what we're going to do. Oh, you know what? They can't. They have to stay on this side of the river because their goal is to attack this town. So they're going to stay on the roads, and they're going to move. It's going to be 1.5 inches to here, and then 4.5 inches to there. So they're going to string out along there, and then these guys are going to they're going to move to here. They're going to be stuck a little something like this in march column, which is a problem because these Austrians, they have to pick, what do you want to do? Let's form, maybe they should form column, these conscripts. Oh man, they're going to form column and they're going to run over here. I know it's a little bit slower, but it's a much more direct route. And the big thing is it leaves this built-up area as a defense work so that when these guys decide, well, you know, maybe we'll just kind of sneak on down here, if they form in line, they'll be out of range, but they can form column of attack, and they can just get to within 2 inches of these guys, which is exactly what they're going to do. The artillery here are going to move 3 inches. They can move 3 inches to here, and then they can move 3 inches to there. But they're still limbered up. I'm going to turn them to face the town. They're limbered up, but they're right there. So they do threaten the flanks of this reinforcing column. This river is right in the way. Whose idea was it to have a battle right here on the riverbank? That's not it for the movement. This artillery is going to have to... Oh boy, they're spending a lot of time just running around. They're going to limber up, and they're going to move 3 inches back to the other side of town. We've got to get them in position to defend against those guys. Or do we just... Because these guys are a threat too. In fact, with that, but they're coming around, but they're kind of close. It's Austrian movement turn. And the Austrian commander is going to pull down into this area because these horses need to come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. They're in march column. And they're going to have to come all the way out of town. That town is going to slow them down, unfortunately, for one full turn. It's going to take them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get in. And that's kind of how they're played out. Now, they'll be able to change formation next turn and maybe do some good over here. More importantly, they are now kind of released from these guys. I think these guys, this is about as close as they could get. As long as the Austrians stay away from this line right here, those guys are going to have to spend that one of their elan to be able to come down. So force him to spend the elan because, you know, the French, they're very vulnerable right now with just one elan left. The Austrians have 3 in this area. So, you know, they can afford to burn a unit or two, and they're still dug into town. Very complicated game. A lot going on here. In fact, there's a lot going on, but the only shooting we have is these guys right here, who are only going to roll 2d6 to fire at this unit, hitting on 4s, so that's 1 hit. And you know what, that's got 1, they've got 1. I got to keep the dice good and tight. And then you've got 1 damage right there now. And I think that's the only shooting that we've got. Because they're still limbered up. So then we have to deal with our hand-to-hand combat. This is the only one we've got. It's going to be 4 dice to the Austrians versus 2 dice to the French. Nobody charged. The French are feeling pretty groovy. That's 2 damage here. We'll pull that one off. I don't remember where that die goes. So this is the Austrians are hitting on 5s. They do a total of 3 damage, which in hand-to-hand combat is going to cause them to recoil a 1/2 inch and become disordered. Okay. But before that, they do get to roll 2 dice. So what did I say? They were at 3, and they took 3. So now they're on 6. And they recoil, but first we have to roll 2 dice against these guys, and they are hitting on 5s. So these guys are driven from the field, and they have to roll a d6 On a 5-up, they save the colors, which they do. How valiant is that? And then these guys are going to back up a half a stand to here. What did we just say? He's limbered. That's right. And then we have these guys cannot charge out of that formation. They're going to have to wait till next 6. This cavalry can't charge just yet. Is there anybody else that can charge? There is not. Now, they're only 2 inches away, but there's a river in the way, so they can't charge. These guys are too far. So that's the end of turn number 7. Moving on to turn number 8. They're disordered. So they are still halted. And that's kind of rough. Okay. This leader has got... Let me clean up the battlefield here just a little bit. 4 inches, we're going to put him over here. And these guys have to continue moving until they get to within 4 inches of somebody. So the main commander will take up position here. I'm sorry, who's got the Elan advantage? It's tied. So for the Austrians, they get a 2 for initiative. The French get a 1. The Austrians are still going to force the French to move. The French are going to say, you know what, burn the Elan. I desperately need to get more warm bodies down here. They control this village. They were the last ones in there. Now they're all attacking in this direction. So we're going to move this cannon. So here's our overall commander. And the first thing I want to do is figure out where this commander is going to go. If these guys form, I think he's got to go. We'll move him last just to ensure that everybody is close enough. These guys are going to wheel about, and they're going to move 4 inches to here. Like so. Because they think they can cut these guys off at the pass. Likewise, these guys are going to move 3 inches down to here. Move those hit counters, and then this guy can move a total of 6 inches to there. He is still, I'm facing him backwards because he's still limbered up. And then these guys can come out in column, and they can move down to here. Putting a lot of pressure on these guys. Might be psychological against these Austrians, but what can you do? Obviously, they are pinned. There's nothing they can do. They can't move. Our leaders are all... Here's our French leader. We're going to put him 4 inches over there. And then we can move this attack column 3 inches to here. And this column now is, they're going to form 3 inch, and they're going to, well, 3 inches will put them right, let's see, 1, 2, 3. And then now they're going to go to attack formation. They're in attack column on the road there. All right, these guys still need to get into the action. We're going to form column, and we're going to make a formation change here, and they are in road formation, which will take them to right about there, and I think we'll stop them just short of those guys. I think that's the best we can do. They're almost to within command range of this guy. In fact, that's going to be the issue, is they're going to have to move into command range first, and likewise, this cannon is going to have to move 3 inches. But hey, look at that. Now he's set up to do some shooting. So we'll at least give them the benefit of the doubt there. This cavalry is going to swing around to here. They can move a total of 4 inches. We'll just kind of stop them like that. And then our cannon is going to pivot like so. Okay? French commander is going to slide right on over. Well, he's got a... Are these guys 8 inches apart? Just barely. This commander is going to go right there. I think that'll be fine. That'll be fine. And then this commander can take position on the hill so he can see both of his sub-commanders here and here. This commander is going to be facing off again. Well, we'll put him on that side of the bridge. So these are the Austrian commanders that are left. And this is the French corps commander, army commander, corps commander. All right? And that corps commander is within 4 inches of this guy, and he's moving closer to him. So we're all set on the command radiuses. We just need to do some gunnery. These guys are facing the wrong direction. I wonder if you can spin when you're halted. The only thing they can do is form emergency square, which is going to be important. First, they have to eat a cannon shot from here. 2 dice, hitting on 6. They take 1 more. They are now up to 7 damage. Then they're going to take 2 dice of attack from these guys. Now that they're no longer in combat, the city can shoot down on them and they're dead. They have to roll a 5 or a 6, which they do, so they preserve the colors. But they're wiped out as a fighting force. So they managed to at least retreat in good order. We did that shooting. I think we may have a shot here. We do not. They're still a little too far away. This cannon limbered up. It's got a shot here, and I think it could do 2 damage. Yeah, they're within 4 inches. So he's going to fire at these guys, and he's not going to hit at all. And then I think that's it for the shooting. These guys are still limbered. Yeah, that's it. So turn 8, shooting is done. Now we got to do some charges. There's no charging here, no charging here. I don't think there's anybody that is capable of charging. These cavalry are too far away. They came closer on this side and forced the Austrians to swing around that way. So we're done with turn number 8. The French now have 3 turns to crack this nut. They've already secured at least a draw. The French control everything north of the Mincio. Well, except this cannon, but that's about to change. We'll do a little bit of cleanup here. And we'll deal with, it's going to be, the Austrians still have the initiative. Hey, French guys, what do you want to do? Well, let's bring these guys 3 inches. 1, 2, and 3. So he's going to move up to there. Pivot a little bit like that. These guys are going to come around to here. And then the cannon here is going to move 3 inches up to here and take up position behind safety. These guys are going to move 6 inches down to here. And then you've got the 1 damage there, don't you? Who else is going to be moving? These guys in attack column are going to come up to here. They're just shy of 2 inches. So we might as well bring them up. Well, if they come straight in, can they get to within 2 inches? The bottom of the hill, they can. So they can shoot up. And then likewise, these guys are going to stop just kind of right on the hill. And they can fire, but these guys are each only firing 1d6 at the town. The other thing we can do is bring him around to this side of the hill to show where that built-up area is. All the French have gone. It's now the Austrians' turn. We're going to move up to here, and we're going to, well, we have to pick our formation, don't we? We're going to assume attack formation so we can move 3 inches. No, you know, all we need to do is move 2, which will halt us right there, and then the Austrians can unleash a fusillade on those guys. And I don't know what you do when everybody's charging in the same direction. Might not be an issue after the shooting is done. We have some more Austrians that want to move. I think these guys need to unlimber and move 1, 2, 3 to get across the river so that they're not being threatened by these guys. They were fixing to get charged. Now they're not. That makes it a little easy. I think we're ready to do some shooting. Is there anybody else? Oh, no, we do have some more. I want to bring these guys. These cavalry need to do something. We're going to spin them around, form squadron, or do we want to form column? Our commander's there, so we can come up to here. If they form column, well, how? Okay. That commander can come over to here, which allows these horses to form squadron and come up here. I think that's probably the way to do it. because we want to rush around and threaten those guys. And now we really are done with movement. Now we don't have any... The only shooting we've got is... We've got 2d6 here on the town, and we're only going to score 1 hit on this little homestead up here. And then that town is going to shoot twice down here and get 1 hit, and twice over here and get no hits. So they have now 2 hits. And then this line is going to fire 4 dice over here at a squad. They're hitting on 4s. That's a total of 3 hits. It's going to pin those guys in place. Not only that, but it lowers them down, so we now effectively have 2 conscripts that are both headed for that village. And the French are in a little bit of trouble. If we were doing this more strategically, we probably would have focused on wiping out as many of the other units as possible, but hey, what you gonna do? We also would have had these guys just retreat when their commander did. We're playing it fast and loose to make it interesting and to kind of prolong the fun of the game, because that's the whole point of being here, is having some fun, right? Oh, this is a long video. I may break it into 2. What am I telling you for? You already know. You already watched the first video. Any other charges we got? Yeah, these guys can charge in, but oh my gosh, these guys, are they within 4 inches? They're pretty close to 4 inches away. If they had moved up just a little bit more, then we could roll for the counter charge. Do they charge on a 5 up? With a 5, they do. Do these guys charge on a 4? And on a 3, they don't, which means these conscripts actually do get stuck in attack column formation. Look at that. Brave conscripts. I like it. And then these guys are going to charge into the backside of these guys, which is not good. It means they don't get to attack back. Any other charges? None that I can see. So we got some hand-to-hand combat. We're going to roll 2 dice for the French over here, hitting on 5s with nothing. The guys in the town are going to hit 2 times on these conscripts. Then we've got 4d6 attacking 5d6 against this French unit. It's extra d6 because of the charge. Hitting on 4s. We only get 1 hit. We're going to spend an elan and re-roll that, because we just need 4s. 1 hit. Somebody is looking out for the French today. If we had gotten 3 hits, these guys would have been driven from the field. We could have forced them to burn this last elan. It just wasn't meant to be. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. They moved. And then that's it for the combat. Moving on to turn number 10. I mean, the Austrians could just be playing for time here, too, because the French only have 3 more turns to get in there, and they're still pretty far away, all things considered. Oh, you know, we did have a couple of shots. These guys are both limbered up. Let's go ahead and do that on turn number 9. It's 2 dice here. And remember, at long distance, they have to re-roll 1 successful hit. So that is a miss. And then this guy is going to fire back, and he also misses. So that was it for turn number 10, or for turn number 9. Now for turn number 11. These guys can make a quality check. And if they fail, they're disordered. If they had succeeded, they would have been able to turn to face and fight hand-to-hand against these guys. As it is, they're in big trouble, because disordered means they got to re-roll. Well, they really can't do much. I think they're going to get ground up. The French have to... No, the Austrians have to move first. So the Austrians limber up. That's all they got. That's the only movement they got. Plus their commanders, but they're all close enough. And then the French can go ahead and move 6 inches to here. Like this. Pull them back just a little bit more. These guys can move a total of 3 inches, which they're going to have to do a formation change to get over this bridge. And then... are they within 4 inches? This commander's got to move over to this hill to keep everybody within command. Yeah, that's a little tight. And then what do we do with these cavalry? If they form line There's no way to get them across. Now the problem is the French can't get enough people over where they need to get them. If they form line, they can move pretty fast. That French cavalry can race over at 8 inches, which would get them all the way to, boy, out right there. And then they'll spend next turn getting across the river. Man, what do you do? I think you have to move the French to here in attack column. 1, 2. I think you have to stop them right there. Because these guys, you need to get them up to here. But they can't because it's just too confusing of a mess down there. Boy. All right, we're going to leave this chief command. Oh, this is the corps commander. We can bring him down here. Yeah, we got to get these guys over to here. Like that. Because they got to get across the river next turn, so maybe on turn 12 they can do some good. Everybody has now moved. It's time to do whatever shooting we've got, which is this cannon shooting at this French. 2 dice, doing 2 hits, and pinning them in place. They needed that result. Then we've got a cannon here. Shoot. Oh. The best they can do is shoot at the town. And they need a 6. They get the 1 6, they need another 6, and they don't do any damage. Okay. No problem. These guys failed their... They are disrupted, so they're about to get pounded pretty good. This cannon is going to fire down here. Hitting on 4s. It's 4 inches, so they're going to get the 1 hit. Takes these guys up to 5. So they are now conscript level. They are going to have to wait till next turn. They can't shoot. These guys can charge into the conscripts, and I'm just going to kind of slap them in there in squadron formation. They just don't have enough space to do anything else, which means we have one of those weird, complicated combats right there, but we have an easy combat right there. Are there any other charges we need to deal with? There's not. So let's do this one first. That one's easy. It's going to be a total of 4 dice for the Austrians. And then these guys don't get to hit back. With those 2 hits, these guys are wiped from the board. And on a 5 or a 6, they save the colors. So the French might be taking a beating, but man, they are protective of their flags. They are just racking up flag protections left and right today. It occurs to me that they also would have suffered a 2d6. No, they were supposed to recoil a ½ inch, but you can't recoil into the built-up area. I don't know how you deal with that. Now we have a complicated combat. 2d6 and cavalry in squadron. It's going to be a total of 4d6 on these conscripts. And that's going to be a total of 2 hits to these guys. So they go up to 4. Now the conscripts do 2d6 against there. They only get to roll, they get 3d6 altogether. I think they roll 2 attacks against the city and 1 against them. Although, being double teamed, it seems like they shouldn't get an extra attack. So I'm going to roll 1d6 against the city, which is a miss, and 1 against the cavalry, which is also a miss. And the French are just not even putting pressure on the city, are they? It is now turn number 11, and at least we've got a lot less units to deal with here. We're going to wheel... Well, who goes first? It's 2-2. Austrians roll a 1, French roll a 4. Austrians have to move first. Fine. We will pivot these guys around here. So that these... Oh, and then these guys aren't halted anymore because it's a new turn. So the Austrians move there, and then that's the only real unit they have that can move. These guys obviously are going to stay right where they're at. Looking at enfilade fire, and then the French get to go. These guys are going to move to within 2 inches of the town, getting ready to assault this side of the town, for what it's worth. No, I think they have to try to take out the cannon first. You got to do it. So they're going to stop right within 2 inches of the cannon. And then these guys, again, they can move a total of 8 inches. They're going to have to stop right about here in column movement. Well, let's see, 6 inches. They can move 3 to there, 3 to there, and 2 to there. So if we put them over here, then this leader is going to have to move 1, 2, 3 to like there into that town. And then, yeah, let's do that, I guess. That'll be a thing. And then this cannon will try to shoot at the town again. That's really about all they can do. These guys are going to have to cross in column. So they'll, well, but they can't move within 2 inches of this guy, can they? So what do you do in that situation? I'll tell you what you do. You put them in column, and you just acknowledge that these guys are going to turn, and they're just going to have to take, a beating before they, no, I guess they have to attack. Well, they stop within 2 inches, which means that's the whole problem with bridges, ain't it? They're going to stop on the bridge, but if they charge, they're going to charge in column march, which is terrible. It means they're only going to do 1d6 when they do attack. Yeah, it's just not good to be French in this scenario, I guess. We're done with all of the movement that we got. Likewise, you know, these guys are going to be in column, and they're likely going to have to, no, they charge forward, so they can't charge there. Yeah, this is just getting ugly. I wish I had somebody that could kind of talk me through this kind of Gordian knot. I mean, we know how to cut Gordian knots, but we ain't going to cut this one. We're going to reason our way through. We have finished all of the moving, which means we move on to shooting. And we've got 2 dice here. The cannon shooting downhill. And they're going to do 2 hits, which is going to stun these guys and keep them from charging. No, that's actually only 1 hit. That's only 1. And these guys are going to shoot back, but because they're shooting uphill, instead of the 2d6, they're only going to roll 1. And they miss. With a 3, they need to roll a 5 to hit. Then we have a cannon here who's going to roll 2d6, and they'll keep both of them, but they only do 1 hit. And if this line by the Austrians takes a shot, hitting on 5s, they pin these guys in place. Not going to be able to charge. But the Austrians will be able to charge. They're just going to have to charge an attack column, so they'll roll 3d6 on that attack. And anybody else that wants to charge? And nobody else can, but we do have this cannon to shoot yet. He rolls a 5, which is a miss, because he's shooting in a built-up area. It's the only guy still in town. And then these guys already shot. So we're done. We got to do some hand-to-hand combat. And it's going to be, this hand-to-hand combat is going to be 1d6 for the French is a miss. And then it's going to be 3d6 for the Austrians. Triple snake eyes. They rolled the 3-eyed snake. Then we're going to roll 2. And, oh, you know what? Because, well, okay. I forgot. Because they didn't beat those guys, they have to withdraw to here. And then they're going to charge again. So they get their 3d6, and it's going to be 2d6 for the townies attacking the French. Total of 5d6. Everybody is hitting on 4s, and these guys take 3 more damage, which is going to force them to recoil. But before they do, they roll a d6 against the town and hit, taking the town up to 2. And then they recoil to 1/2 inch, like so. These guys have to withdraw the 4 inches to about there. And our good friends down here are disrupted with 6 wounds. And it's going to be turn 12. And we have to roll for initiative. I think this one's got all that Sturm and Drang, noise and thunder, sound and fury, and I think this is going to be a draw. It might be a minor Austrian victory. The French, for their part, roll a 4 for initiative. The Austrians roll a 6, meaning the French have to do their movement first. These guys are going to form line here, 4 inches away from that cavalry. And so that cavalry's waiting to charge. Oh my. Again, what do you do when you're charging the rear of a cavalry? You know what? We're just not going to let that happen. But the cavalry are charging there. You have to worry about which cavalry goes first. We're just going to leave it like that. And that's it. We're going to have, so these guys improve to pinned, and we're going to have some shooting. These French are shooting into the town, and they miss. The town is shooting at them, and the town hits with 1, putting these guys on a 7. Here on turn 12, and honestly, I don't see any way that the French get out of this. These guys rotate this way. They're going to be able to shoot twice into the town. They're only hitting once to do 3 damage, and then they got to eat 2d6. They're up to 7 damage. But they're not pin. Oh, and then 2d6 shooting back is not going to do anything. These guys, where are we at? We did shooting. That's melee. This is, well, that's going to be melee. This is going to be melee. We're going to have charge. So do the Austrians succeed? They do. Do the French succeed? They do not. So the Austrians are going to be able to charge, and it's going to be, because they're in squadron, it's going to be 3d6 with a charge versus 4d6. So the French hit on 5s, and they get, or on 4s, they get 2 hits. Versus the Austrian 3 hits. Oh my gosh. And as we know, 3 hits in combat means they have to withdraw 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4 to about here. And these guys are disordered. And I think cavalry, they have to follow up for another round of combat. Conducted immediately. These guys are now on, but they lose 1 hit point because they're getting tired. And so it's going to be the same thing now. Because they had to squeeze into squadron, it's going to be 2 for the French. They miss, and it'll be 3 for the Austrians, who hit twice, and that becomes a 6. But now because we're done, let's get that in there. These guys are going to withdraw 4 inches to there. And the French are going to withdraw 4 inches to the very corner of the battlefield. They're just, look at that. They're just barely hanging on. More importantly, though, they have been successfully driven off. These guys can charge up to here on their turn. But again, it's going to be 2 attacks for the town, which wipes them out. Do they save the colors? They do not. So that's 0 on for the French. The French do get to attack, and they're going to get 1 hit, taking them to 4, which is not enough. And then likewise, these guys are pinned. So that's the game, folks. That's the game. We can do this combat over here. It's going to be 1 versus 3. The Austrians do no damage. The French do no damage. And that's fought to a stalemate. So despite some last-minute heroics, these guys are now out of the fight. And with the loss of that unit, French morale crumbles. They retreat back across the river to the last town that they held. And I guess this river is the new frontier. But, you know, because the French have proven themselves completely invincible, Northern Ireland is going to go to the Austrians. And not only that, but the Austrians, because they control this town, they control all 3 river crossings. Anybody that wants to cross, any follow-up French force, is going to have to come through these guys. The French have basically, you know, shot their bolt. Everything they had, they threw at it. They couldn't crack this nut. So I think we'll go ahead and give the minor victory to the Austrians, which, if my memory serves, is in keeping with the historical results. So what a great scenario design. It took a heck of a long time to play through it. Probably go a little faster if you had 2 players. It was way more complicated than most battles that you've seen. I mean, this is a battle, even though we only had 2 cores per side, I think it is on the same order as the complexity. Maybe it's not quite as complex as this one that's included in the book, but I think it's, you know, it's about as complicated as this one. Complicated or not, it was a heck of a lot of fun. I like this game. I'm praying for you.